9-7. Bust a bus.
All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Hersey Hoops' latest original podcast production, The Network, which features interviews with Hersey basketball alums across a variety of different careers and majors to highlight the connection between interscholastic athletics and career achievement. We hope the network can serve as a bridge between our alumni's experience in high school basketball with that of their professional successes. One word before we get started, the Network podcast is brought to you by Barrick Inc. Softball jerseys, company polos, senior night banners. Call Barrick Inc., who specializes in silk screening and embroidery. Your go-to call for all your promotional needs. When deadlines matter, Barrick Inc. delivers. Ask for Tim Cafaro. Tell him Hersey Basketball sent you. Last, subscribe to Hersey Hoops on Twitter or Instagram for live episodes of the network, which can also be found on YouTube with the full visual, Spotify or SoundCloud for audio. What an honor and a privilege it is to welcome our first guest. Man, if we were on Twitter, we'd all be hashtag blessed and honored. But Jason Schmidt, Hersey class of 2019, who just finished his freshman year at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. First of all, Jason, welcome to the show. Happy to have you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Jason is going to tell you a little bit about his high school experience today, his career path, and what he's currently doing at CMU. But first, if you could please tell us a little bit about your why for your choice to attend Carnegie Mellon. Of course, you were tremendously accomplished in academics at Hersey, athletics as a basketball player, and then probably most notably the performing arts while at JHHS. Tell us a little bit about why you chose CMU and the program or track you are currently involved in there.
Yeah, so I'm in the musical theater track at the School of Drama in Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh. And I chose that, I guess, I knew pretty early on that musical theater was something I was really passionate about and something I really wanted to do. And my grandma who just passed actually was really into music, and from an early age she taught me piano, and it was something that a lot of people around me had told me, you know, you're really good at this, and that's not something you see every day, and you should think about like using that at a higher level. And so when I told my mom about that, she wasn't super happy because musical theater or theater in general isn't necessarily always the most profitable career. It's very unstable a lot of times in a lot of facets. But after I talked to her for a couple of weeks, I eventually convinced her that it was something that I was really passionate about, and I really wanted to do it. And so she was like, okay, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this right. And we went online and we did a lot of research about all the schools that offered it in the country and all the programs and all the best programs. And Carnegie Mellon was always one that was at the top of all the lists. And in the theater program, I did a lot in high school, CYT. Two graduates from the past had gone to Carnegie Mellon. And they were people that I kind of looked up to from afar. So that was a huge thing as well. Also, the alumni from Carnegie Mellon's program have done a lot of things, like Leslie Odom Jr. and Renee Lee Goldsberry were two of the leads in Hamilton.
Leslie Odom Jr. plays Aaron Burr, correct?
Yes, yeah. He went to Carnegie Mellon. I actually just had a Zoom call with him last week because
humble brag.
Came in it. Yeah, yes. Corey Cott, who was just at the Lyric Opera House in Chicago last summer for West Side Story. He also was a Carnegie Mellon alum. So especially Corey Cott, he was one guy that I watched all the time and modeled my voice after and tried to take as much as I could from him. And, you know, he was, when you look at the list alumni, he was on it. And I was like, well, if you went there, then I want to go there. So it was a lot of that. And it's one of those things that going into theater, you don't necessarily plan to make it into a program like that. You kind of plan to make it into a good program. You don't plan to make it into like places like Carnegie Mellon, because they take 12 people from musical theater out of maybe 3,000 or something like that audition, that get past the pre-screens each year. So it wasn't something I really planned on, but it was my dream. It was my dream school, and very
So
blessed to be there.
you didn't want to put all your eggs in that basket coming out of high school. As accomplished as you were, you just thought like, yeah, it's a little far-fetched maybe because
Yeah.
the program is like kind of quantity capped. So
Yes.
how many people make it into the program? And it's certain, it's like gender capped too, isn't it?
Yeah. So it'll be our year had 7 guys and 7 girls. Most years only have 6 guys and 6 girls that make it into the program. It's this is, I mean, like, not as many people go into it, but it's said that like less people get accepted. It's like less than 1% acceptance rate. Then less people get accepted than like Ivy League schools and stuff like that. But you know, it's a really refined skill. So less people go into it, but it's still not something I would have ever been. And it's crazy because I had a conversation with one of my mentors of theater after we went and saw a show. And he was like, it's crazy because you'll see people so much better than you never get to the levels that you will get to, and you'll see some people that you would consider yourself to be much better than get much higher than you in this function. And it's just one of those things that like sometimes it's just like what they see that day. You know, you have the audition process, you do two or three monologue pieces, 2 or 3 songs for them, and then, you know, from that they decide 6 guys and 6 girls from like thousands. And it's just like, obviously they know what they're doing, but it's, you know, it's still a blessing, and there has to be something else that they see that they want you for. So
Right. Let me ask you this. Is there ever like you know, a musical theater person that gets into like an acting career exclusively without like the musical element, or is it kind of all in? Like, you know, so for example, you take somebody like Bradley Cooper, who's done some acting roles that require some musical talent,
yeah.
who probably could have succeeded in musical theater, but it was probably an actor by trade. You know, obviously you acted in a lot of musicals, which have a strong acting component in them. Does that ever happen, or is that kind of unrealistic to foresee?
Yeah, no, that actually happens a lot. A lot of musical, the one of the unique things, and one of the reasons I wanted to go to Carnegie Mellon so bad, was because a lot of musical theater programs are really focused on musical theater, and like that's the thing they focus on. And Carnegie Mellon is focused around acting with other musical theater elements as well mixed in. So a lot of alumni end up doing both, or just doing theater, just doing acting. I'm forgetting his name. Did you ever watch White Collar
No.
back then? The main guy in that was a musical theater alumni from Carnegie Mellon, but he's never done any musicals now. He's just only done TV shows and
Interesting.
things like that.
So like as a musical theater major, like do you still have to take like math classes?
We do not have to take a math class. We have to take a personal finance class that counts as like our university math credit.
Right.
But
So
we
you
have
learn
to
how to
take,
count your money essentially.
yeah, yes. This year we had to take, first semester we had to take an English class, and second semester we had to take a history class, which are both kind of like, the school, like, no, it's a very intelligent school. Like, it's top for like engineering and computer science, and like obviously your academics is part of the reason, or like goes partly into the decision of whether you get in or not, but like at the end of the day it doesn't really affect much. So the teachers like know who the theater kids are in their classes,
Right.
and like, you know, they want you to turn in the paper, and then as long as it's like fine, you'll pass the class, is kind of how it goes.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
Gotcha. So I have one Carnegie Mellon trivia question for you.
Okay.
Can you name the other Hersey basketball alum, class of '92, who played basketball at Carnegie Mellon? The Tartans, I believe, right?
Yes, the Tartans.
From 1993 to 1996.
That would be my teammate's father, Mr. Ronzio.
That is absolutely
Eric
correct.
Ronzio.
That is absolutely correct. There very well may be more Hersey basketball alums that went to Carnegie Mellon, but you know, he's on the Mount Rushmore of Hersey basketball, Carnegie Mellon alums.
Yes.
All right, first question, Jason. Obviously, those who are in school with you or know you are aware that you were heavily involved in multiple plays and musicals during your time in high school. such as your roles as Frank Abagnale Jr. in the District 214 performance of Catch Me If You Can, which was one of my favorite roles of yours. Shrek,
Thank you.
in Hersey's rendition of Shrek the Musical. Walking the hallways with Jason, you'd always get like one or two kids and be like, "Oh, there's Shrek." One of them was probably one of them was probably Cuba most times, and
Yeah.
then Bobby Strong in Hersey's rendition of Urinetown, which I also saw.
Yeah.
However, those of you who haven't seen the E True Hollywood Story on Jason Schmidt yet don't know he is a homeschooled product. So, what aspects of the homeschooling experience did you feel were essential for you in becoming who you were in high school with such a diverse skill set? What was the homeschooling experience like for you? And how do you think being the youngest with 3 older sisters, correct?
Yes.
How do you think being the youngest in that setting influenced kind of your confidence to do both? I know it's a loaded question, but
Yeah. Homeschooling was a really unique experience for sure. I did a lot of co-ops, they call them, which are like a bunch of homeschool families will have like a mom who majored in this teach this class, and a dad who majored in this teach this class, you know. So it was kind of like I kind of had a schooling experience. But what homeschooling did do for me was it offered me like a lot of different creative opportunities to like truly dive into, because I think a lot of times in public school you get like an opportunity to do choir, band, or art, things like that. But in homeschooling I really got a chance to like I took an art class, figured out I'm not an artist. I took a choir class, figured out that I like singing. I took piano, I took guitar, and as well as things like math and science and English. And it gave me a chance to really actually dive into those things, as well as it gave me, I think there's an independence factor with homeschooling that, you know, you kind of have to do it yourself, which I don't think I would have said that I always did in middle school and before that, because you know, you're a kid, you don't always want to push yourself to read the book. But I did as much as I could, and the thing it did allow me to do was I got to make the decision of what I was interested in, which I don't think a lot of kids really truly get to sometimes in public school. And I don't think if I wasn't homeschooled I would be in theater right now, because I just don't think that would have, because I was a sports kid primarily growing up, and then, you know, I figured out that I like singing, and then I figured out I like acting, and so I don't think I would have ever gotten into that if it wasn't for homeschooling. So
right. And I think, you know, sports can become such a crowded,
yeah,
it can become such a crowded area in high school, but then also such a crowded career too. So I think, and there's so many kids who are interested in sports, right? It's so many different levels, and then this attrition kind of weeds everybody out as like the talent pool gets deeper and deeper. But I think that just to have that unique and original creativity inspired by homeschool is a special experience. Now, your sisters were all in high school while you were being homeschooled, correct?
Yes. I had my sister Tori was at Hersey with me her junior and senior year. Okay. So I had her. I never went to school with Jess or Amanda, which are my older two. But yeah, so while they were at high school, I was still homeschooling. And I mean, my cousins who are one a year older than me and one a year younger than me also homeschool. So like I took classes at their house all the time.
Okay, awesome. And then
also my 8th grade year, I took choir at MacArthur Middle School, so I could play basketball and volleyball there.
Okay. That's awesome. And then if you ever see like a family portrait of the Schmidts, it's usually the 3 girls and then like Jason laying across them, right? Like you're the lovable last child.
Yeah. I definitely am. The picture we always, whenever like, I don't know, we take pictures at Easter. I never want to take pictures with them because they're always like check the camera and they're like, well, oh, I don't look good in this one, and I don't look good in this one.
Trust me, I know.
Yeah. So I always, you know, they'll get me out there for like 5 minutes to take pictures with them, but it always ends with them like picking me up or something like that. Because I don't know, I'm the only boy. I'm the youngest.
Right.
I talk a lot.
Now going back into your high school experience, like in your senior year, for example. Now I obviously got the job at Hersey in your senior year, so I didn't know, I wasn't there when Shrek came out. Like I didn't feel that buzz at 1900 East Thomas Street. But you were the MC of the assemblies your senior year. You were a lead actor in Urinetown. You were a varsity basketball player, a good varsity basketball player too. And then I think you'd be the first year good. Like there was no shortage of like Jason Schmidt airtime at Hersey in 2019. Like, why do you think like administration and student council and all these people who are in charge of putting together all these events, like looked to you to be like such a magnetic figure as a leader for Hersey to lean on? Like I remember when you came to my freshman class, and then like I think you had to like drop off something, and then you left, and all the freshman girls were like, "Oh man, that was Jason Schmidt." Like, you know Jason Schmidt? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, we can have these. He's not like, you know, above all of us yet, at least. Like I always thought personally, like your character and like who you were spoke louder volumes than like your actual titles. But like, you know, I know like the trope, like the Troy Bolton cliche and like the High School Musical stuff, like kind of began to annoy you almost a little bit at the end. But like, how was your purpose like deeper than that, than just like, here's this real life character, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I would have never considered myself really to be much of a leader a lot of times. And maybe that, you know, played into the fact that I got to have all these opportunities was because I didn't act like I was some leader. I never felt like that. I just was happy to get those opportunities to you know, be in front of the school and speak for people. And I think the thing that I would say is the bigger aspect about what I got to do was, you know, I always feel really blessed that I got to you know, get some of the basketball players to come and see Shrek the musical at Hersey High School, and I got some of my people in theater and choir to come watch the basketball games and stuff like that. And it's not oftentimes that happens, that people cross worlds like that.
The worlds are very exclusive in high school.
Yeah, they are.
You know, like we watch, you know, all these like teen movies or sitcoms centered around high school, and they make it seem like it's exclusive, and we're like, well, that's not realistic, and it's perhaps not. Most aren't, right? But there is some exclusivity to each side. Like there's at Hersey, like there's a band hallway and there's a theater wing, and it's next to the athletic wing, but in, you know, symbolically they might be worlds apart.
Yeah, and I think we have a small enough school that, you know, everyone in I felt like a lot of people in our class knew each other. There wasn't many people that I would be like, I don't really, like, I wouldn't look through the yearbook and be like, who is this? I never met them or talked to them. But I think not a lot of people got out to see what all of their classmates could do, you know? There's so many people that have so many talents in our class, and I think, you know, some people, I think sports are one of the more highlighted things, and like people knew who was good at basketball and who was good at football and things like that. And not oftentimes did people get out to like see theater. And I think it was a special thing that I got to like drag kind of some of the basketball guys into watching me perform. And I think some of them enjoyed it. I still remember my junior year during Shrek, our center, Joe Nugent, I think he came to all 3 or 4 performances of Shrek, which was always, I saw him after everyone. I was like, there's Joe again.
That's awesome.
But yeah. And
do you think in high school that athletic talent is perhaps overrated and then performing arts talent is underrated? Do you think vice versa? Do you think there's kind of equal attention centered around both? Or is it just attention from different places?
I think athletics get more attention in high school. It can be a more thrilling experience to go watch a basketball game or a football game, and it's generally something more people do anyways. Whereas I don't think like choir and theater oftentimes is put in a spotlight at all. in high school, which I mean is to be expected. There's not a lot of places that are like that, and it takes a lot to make a good show. Um, um, and so I do think that, but I also think there is attention from different places as well. Because actually, I think our school did a pretty good job. Like the administration was both places. Like I don't think there was much administration that wouldn't, there wasn't a basketball coach that wouldn't go see theater, or a theater director that wouldn't go to a basketball game, and the orchestra director would play. He led the pep band, and he would always talk to me about the games the next day. And that was, I really enjoyed that part of it. But I think in general, with the students, I think it's a little bit more towards athletics, which is totally understandable at a high school level. So
I think you understanding that speaks a lot to like your understanding of both roles, and I think just the way that you explain that kind of speaks to that. Next, kind of moving into professional musical theater a little bit. Obviously, the whole Hamilton craze a couple years ago put musical theater in a greater spotlight than it probably had been previously. And Lin-Manuel Miranda, who wrote and then starred in the original Broadway performance of Hamilton, is responsible for a lot of that. But what do you think that Hamilton has done for musical theater, even at the high school or college level? Obviously, you talked about Leslie Odom being a Carnegie Mellon grad. Like, do you find that you're around like your peers in musical theater that were like, oh, I saw Hamilton and it inspired me, or perhaps a kid who wasn't interested in musical theater that saw something that was kind of such a attractive performance that kind of led into that? And then last, as a jump off point from that question, like, what is your dream role? Like as a, it could be in a show that's already been produced and, completed, or it could be, a conceptual musical that isn't even in the works yet that you could potentially write, for example.
Okay. Well, I think Hamilton has had such a massive impact on the musical theater world, and I think obviously it did drag a lot of people into the world of musical theater, and I think musical theater can sometimes be considered like an exclusive art form, because there's it can be very expensive to go see a musical theater performance, and so it doesn't often reach a lot of people. Also, like sometimes like the older music, like the younger kids don't want to go watch Oklahoma, they don't want to watch some musical. I mean, like personally I like the show, but like younger kids don't want to watch that. Hamilton brought in a fresh new music style with a very interesting way of portraying it. And I mean, I remember the first time I listened to Hamilton, it was like, it's a very memorable moment for me. I put my headphones in and I like played it through, and it was like months after it came out and people were telling me about it. For some reason I was like, yeah, I don't want to listen to it, I probably won't like it. And I listened to it and it was like the most amazing experience. Wish I could go back to that moment. Like if I could listen to anything for the first time again, it would be Hamilton.
So you think like the interwovenness of hip hop, which was probably the currently most popular music for a high school kid, with your other passion for musical theater, blend together to create this like transcendent moment for you?
Yes. Yeah, true. It was just like, also the way, this is a little bit more like nerdy and technical, I guess, but the way Lin-Manuel weaves all these different musical tropes together is like, for instance, in one song you'll have this little line of music and then you'll hear it again in this song, and it like brings your mind back to that song, which creates this experience for you. And it's, there's not many people you could talk to that wouldn't know a song from Hamilton, or at least know of Hamilton. And so it brought musical theater into this new light, and I think it made it more interesting for high schools and colleges. And I think when I was talking to Leslie Odom Jr. the other week, it wasn't just me. It was our class talking to him, but he said so it wasn't a personal call, but he said something about, he said a lot of people in musical theater, wonder why it's not like a more popular art form, because they love it so much. And he said it's it's our job to make people want to watch what we do. We have to make something that people can't not go see. And he said too many people in musical theater just, make something that they like and are like, well, why wouldn't somebody want to see this? And he's like, no, it's our job to make sure that people need to come see this. And I think Hamilton did a really cool job of that. And I think Dear Evan Hansen after that was also a pretty culturally known musical as well. And I think musical theater is doing it more and more, where they're weaving a popular musical style into a story, which is more interesting for people. And I hope that things like that keep coming out, because I like it more too. I'm not a huge fan all the time of the older music styles. I can enjoy a good West Side Story and a good Les Mis, but I like the modern stuff, the rock and the hip hop and stuff like that.
Do you think you have the chops to rap if you were like given a Hamilton role?
I'm gonna say no. I don't think. I think I could.
Like they rap very fast. Like Lin-Manuel Miranda is a skilled hip hop artist.
Oh yeah, there's a couple interviews with him on Jimmy Fallon where he does. It's like a word generator where they generate words and then he like improvs a rap with it. It's so impressive. Yeah. Also, David Diggs, the guy who plays Thomas Jefferson and Lafayette, he has his one rap in that show is I forget it broke some record at some point with words.
The King is always my favorite character, but I think he was like just comic relief. And it was always that same, again, like you said, blending that same style of music that you hear from the King at various parts in the plot line. Good. Then now, dream role. What do you got for us here?
Dream role. So the first musical I saw on Broadway, I guess it was a tour, but it was Newsies. And then like my favorite Broadway actor, Jeremy Jordan, was Jack Kelly in Newsies originally. And I don't know, it was something about that show that like the other day we had a chance to talk to someone from Newsies, and it like reminded me a little bit like why I started to love theater in the first place. The music, I really enjoy the music. So my dream role would be Jack Kelly from Newsies, I think. Awesome. It was just, if you have ever heard Santa Fe from Newsies, it's a really beautiful song. Have you seen the movie?
I have not.
Oh, okay.
I've got a lot of time on my hands though, so
maybe you should give it a watch. It's Christian Bale.
Oh, okay.
Is Jack Kelly in the movie?
So there's a musical form and a movie form, or is it?
Yeah, there's a movie. I mean, like it's mostly the same story. There's a like a couple added storylines in the musical, but it's pretty much the same thing.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Next, I would guess that there had to have been some time your freshman year where you thought you had to choose like athletics or performing arts. I think we have to pay some homage to like who talked you out of specialization and how did they do it? You obviously got some great advice. And then what advice would you give to a kid who maybe wants to pursue both?
Yeah. Coming into my freshman year, I had made the decision to quit theater and to just play basketball. I was gonna go to law school and play basketball in college. Hopefully, was for some D3 school. That was my plan. And then that year, the CYT, the program that I usually do, came out that they were doing Les Mis in the fall, it's a very popular musical. It's one of the classics. And it's one that
I used to teach the text, actually. Like,
okay.
When I was very young, my first year teaching at Grays Lake Central High School, I remember like it was an honor sophomore class, and we taught the text. I mean, it was like 1,200 words.
It's a long,
a wonderfully intriguing book, and I'm sure the musical is the same way. But like, I remember like going into it thinking I would hate it, and then like loved like the plot. So that kind of changed your perspective a little bit.
I mean, Les Mis is a beautiful musical. But coming into it, I didn't really want to do it. My mom said, you know, the CYT is doing Les Mis, you should do it. And I was like, Mom, I'm done with that. I don't want to do that. And, you know, at that point I was kind of like, playing basketball is cool and theater's not, for some reason.
Such a classic teenager conversation.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And then eventually my mom was like, well, I'm your mom and you're in 8th grade and I'm telling you that you're going to do it. So you're going to do it. And I was like, okay, fine. I don't really have a choice. So I did it. And the way CYT as a program works is there's each county does 3 shows a year, and there's like 8 counties in the Chicagoland area: DuPage, Cook, Kane, McHenry, Oak Park. And each county does 3 shows a year, and Les Mis doesn't happen a lot. And so like all the people who were like got the leads in all the other counties came down to Cook County to do Les Mis with us. And we had like hundreds of people audition, and more talent than I had seen in my theater experience thus far. And so there was a bunch of really talented people. I was surrounded. I got blessed enough to play a lead role, and it just kind of, there was a bunch of guys who were also athletic and stuff like that who did it with me, and they were older, and they kind of showed me that like it wasn't really weird to do both. And I had a director. His name is Matt Seiler. He's a huge mentor and inspiration to me. But he was one of the directors for that show, and he kind of told me, he was the first person who pulled me aside and was like, hey Jason, you're really good at this. Like, this is something that you could actually like find a lot of success in. And because up until that point it was just like something I did for fun. And I mean, it still is, and that's something I want to keep in my career, is that it's something I do for fun, not just for money. But the show ended up being really spectacular, and they would hand out tissues before the show, and like people would leave crying every single show, and it was completely sold out both weekends we did it. And it was the experience that I knew I had experience in a theater where I got emotional, or watching a movie where I got emotional. But I never knew that like I could be the one to help people have that experience that makes them think about their life in a different way, or makes them text a friend that they haven't texted in a while because that character made them think of them, things like that. And it was just so special, and all these people around me. I think also the community in that show changed a lot for me, because I made a lot of like lifetime friends, and that's one thing about theater that I really love, is when you're in a show with people, you don't always stay friends with them afterwards, but because, you know, they go off on their own separate way. But when you're in the show with them, you're like best friends, and it's an amazing experience.
For sure. So like what advice would you give to a high school kid who wants to do both? Like I have a unique experience. Like there's not a lot of basketball coaches that are English teachers. And I kind of had that same experience that you were talking about. Like even last night, like, you know, before The Last Dance came on, which is like must see viewing for everybody. Like
yes, go watch it.
It was a dilemma for me because like Forrest Gump was on CBS, and I like love Forrest Gump. And I was watching the ending, and my wife cannot even watch the ending because she cries every time. And I've seen it so many times. But like I watch it with a different perspective now with a son, like watching Forrest like mentor little Forrest, and like speaking at Jenny's grave, like such a poignant scene. Like I think of like the writer to like have to write that scene in like such an emotional way that the screenwriter did, I think is like unbelievable. And it seems like you had that same experience, like in playing in Les Mis. It's like, man, well, I can make a gym full of people leave cheering, or make a auditorium full of people leave, like, again, thinking deeper about something that, you know, your performance was the impetus of. And I think that is certainly, like, when you think of like fulfilling careers, I think that's an integral part of it. But like, if you were talking to a freshman right now who has a little bit of interest in both, and is kind of thinking towards like, yeah, you know what, I just want to play football, and I want to, like, you know, play football and date a cheerleader and, you know, do this and that, what would you say to them?
I'm a big believer in just like throwing yourself into something. So I would say like if you're gonna do it, do both. Do both. Like actually try, because there's been plenty of people who have come through theater and choir and things like that, that don't really give it a chance. They kind of do it and then they don't really throw themselves into it and they don't really give much, and it's a lot easier to give yourself to athletics, especially as a freshman. I think freshman, sophomore year, eighth grade, that kind of age range is a very self-conscious age range, where you're constantly, at least I was at that age, I was constantly thinking about, well, if I do this, then people are going to think this about me. And I wouldn't shy away from the fact that there is a point where, it is at that age, especially cooler to do athletics, and that there is a little bit of like cooler, I say. And that there is like sometimes you're going to get poked fun at a little bit for trying choir and doing theater, but I would say that it's completely worth it in every regard. It's very fulfilling, and the community you find there will be just as amazing as the community you'll find in football. Neither you could really put above the other because they're both a different experience. But I don't know, I would just say you should at least try it. Your freshman year, at least try it, because you're never going to again. Like if you quit it your freshman year, you're not going to go back to it your sophomore year. And the thing is, you could absolutely do it your freshman year and not do it your sophomore year, if you end up not liking it. But I think you should give yourself a chance to do everything. If you have an interest in it, why not try? Why not? Because that could end up being something great and amazing for you.
Right.
So.
Okay. Changing gears a little bit. So for those who follow Jason on Instagram, and I'll give him a quick plug here, at jason.s.schmidt. What's your middle name, Sam?
Scott's my dad's name.
Okay. I've seen you on the guitar a little bit, modeling some iconic fashion looks. You have the sport coat post. You got a shirtless pic for those females who it. And then have also modeled like the short sleeve button down shirt is like your trademark, I think, in terms of fashion. And then you get the backwards snap back a little bit. That's like when I see Jason Schmidt in my head, like that's the image that's conjured. So is social media like just for fun for you, or do you see yourself as sort of an influencer of your own kind of personality and originality and uniqueness, kind of your distinctiveness as a person?
I didn't used to post a lot on social media. I still don't post that much, but it has become something that has kind of been like, it's something for me now. Like it used to be something that I wanted like people to see this or see that. And now it's just like, this is a picture that I enjoy with people I enjoy. And I want to post it because, I want to show that to people. Hello? Sorry. It's a full house.
No worries, absolutely.
But yeah, I would say as I progress in my career with acting, it'll probably become something that I have to use a little more because, nowadays with social media, that's a really big part of it sometimes. And, it's something that like, if I was ever to gain like a following or whatever, I would always, I would want to use it in a positive way and post encouraging things and post things of people loving life and having great experiences, because like, I think there is a lot of beauty in life and there's a lot of fun in life. And, I would want to help people see that, because there are definitely people that I follow on Instagram that brighten my day when I see a picture that they posted, because it's creative and interesting. And I don't think I would consider myself much of an influencer, but like, it's just for fun,
Well, you'll have to let me know if you get an influx of followers in the wake of popularity.
Okay.
Last question kind of for you before we do some fun ones. Like, what do you see yourself doing as a career upon graduation? Like, do you see yourself in musical theater, in music exclusively, in improv? Like, you can kind of do it all. Like, do you want to do something that models your full range, or do you want to do something like that is like your most keen passion? And again, in a hypothetical world with no COVID-19 and you have free reign over, vocational choice, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so I think a lot of theater majors, when they get this question, take like a shy answer of like, I don't know, I want to be an actor, but I'll probably, end up teaching and stuff like that. And while very well that could happen, I want to take I want to, have the boldest answer I can, because if you shoot for the sun, you land amongst the stars if you fail. But so I'm gonna probably end up moving to New York or LA after graduation. Carnegie Mellon does a showcase at the end of their senior year where they perform for a bunch of casting directors and agents and managers and things like that. And it's always very successful for our program. You end up with an agent or auditions and things like that. And from there, I'll audition. I mean, I do write music sometimes, so that'll be something that I hopefully will take more of an interest in, or not an interest in, but eventually I would love to release music and things like that. So my goal, I guess, is to kind of do it all. We've had interviews at CMU with a lot of our successful alumni, and they kind of say the biggest thing that they say is like, what are you doing when you're not performing? What are you doing when you're not auditioning? You should be writing your own stuff. You should be writing your own music. You should be creating videos. You should be putting yourself out there. So that's what I'll be doing. I would love to. I'm gonna try and try everything and see what eventually is gonna work best for me.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Last question. This is kind of a fun one. Of your basketball teammates at Hersey, specifically the class of 2019. Now, there were 8 of you last year.
Yes.
Who would have made the best performing artist had they given it a realistic chance?
So
you got Rocco, Hano, Kuba, Verholst, yourself, Igo, and Jace.
I think we had a couple. I could see Rocco hitting it with the comedy. Like, he could be up there with a comedy special, I think.
Sure.
I think Jace always tried to prove to me that he had a good voice. So I could see Jace being a singing artist. I could see Kuba launching like a rap career.
You just have to rein Kuba in, like, behaviorally.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd have to have like a manager there with him.
Right.
No, but I think, I could see him going crazy on stage. I could see that for sure. I could see him jumping into the crowd surfing a little. I think we had a talented class in terms of the performing arts.
Sure. Davis and Ryan were the most like kind of close to the vest in terms of like emotions, but like,
yeah,
it's interesting. It's interesting to think about.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do you have a
I think I'm gonna go with Kuba.
Okay.
I think he would have made acting, if we're talking about that lane, is it's a lot about like being able to release yourself. That was something Kuba never had a problem with, I would say. So yeah. He was always very outgoing.
That's a very, very polite and delicate way of putting that. All right. So before we let Jason get to kind of the live performance element of the podcast, again, Jason, I just want to thank you for your willingness to be our first guest. I think this is going to be an awesome listen for a lot of kids who are perhaps interested in both. We encourage everybody who listens to follow Hersey Hoops on Twitter or Instagram for live episodes of the network, and then follow the podcast on YouTube, which will be up later today for the full visual experience, or just click us a follow on Spotify or SoundCloud for the audio version. Jason, thanks again for your time. I thought it was like tremendously insightful for young people, but also gave those like myself who are just in the camp of being a Jason Schmidt fan, just gave us an insight into kind of your life. And I know there's so many teachers that maybe didn't even have you. Like, I think of like the Laura Beckers and the Dr. Groves of the world who are just like so enamored with who you were in high school that will no doubt listen to the the 49-minute podcast here. But what will you be performing for us today?
I was thinking I'm gonna play a little guitar.
Okay.
And one of the first pieces I learned on guitar was Lego House by Ed Sheeran.
Okay.
So I think I'm gonna sing a little bit of that.
All right. We're ready for you, so go ahead.
You all. I'm gonna pick up the pieces and build a Lego house. If things go wrong, we can knock it down. Our 3 words have 2 meanings, but there's one thing on my mind. It's all for you. And it's dark in the cold December, but I got you to keep me warm. If you're broken, I'll mend you, and I'll give you shelter from the storm that's raging on now. I'm out of touch, I'm out of love. I'll pick you up when you're getting down. And out of all these things I've done, I will love you better now. I'm out of sight, I'm out of mind. I'll leave it all for you in time. And out of all these things I've done, I will love you better now.
Wow. Excellent stuff. Thank you very much. For those who are interested more in Jason, you can follow him on Instagram at jason.s.schmidt, or just, bombard the Carnegie Mellon social media offices and tell them you want more Jason Schmidt content. So Jason, again, thank you very much for coming on. We wish you the best of luck this summer and moving forward into your sophomore year and beyond. All right. Thanks again, buddy.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Good on your hands with my eyes to see. Straight buck valid in the place to be.